Hello, everyone. Um, it's been a couple weeks since I did this. Actually, I think it's been a few weeks since I did this Money Faith Fridays segment. As you know, I am really passionate about helping to take away a lot of the stigma that comes when talking about money, especially in context of faith. And I've shared my story on here a lot, just about this journey that I've personally been on, and I've also been watching many other women walk through this journey of really coming to terms with having a healthy mindset around money. And so I'm really committed to continuing to talk about that here. And this is actually the second time I have brought my very, very dear friend, Sandy Gledhill, into come and share. And last time we were talking a lot just about her story with money and what God had done in her life around her mindset around money and around wealth. But today, we're actually going to kind of shift that conversation and talk a little bit more about, okay, so you have your streams of money coming in, whether that's with one income, two incomes, or maybe, you have multiple income streams that you've developed. Well, now what? What does that money do? what do you do with that money? Do you stick it in a savings account? Do you invest it in the stock market? Now, my disclaimer is we are not financial advisors. And so none of this is from a place of financial advising. However, we did want to share today and dive into something that both of us have been learning a lot about. And that is all around sound money, also known as God's money. Okay, so Sandy, I wanted to start off just by asking you, can you define what sound money? I had never heard this term before until this year. You introduced me to this. What is sound money, and or what is God's money? How would you define that? And why is it called that?
So there is a form of money that has been called traditionally sound money. It has been called God's money. It has also been called real money.
Yes.
And that is gold and silver. Gold and silver have traditionally been referred to as real money. And in fact, we call the US dollar, we call that our money. Actually, by definition, that is currency. Money has intrinsic value, purchasing power. And the US dollar used to be tied to God's money, real money, sound money, to give it its value. But 50 years ago, when one of our illustrious leaders, US presidents, decided to do away with the dollar-backed gold standard, that US dollar just became currency. So when we talk about money, when we use we clipped it from its connection to gold and silver. It was to gold. But when we talk about money, real money, God's money, sound money, we are referring to gold and silver.
Awesome. Okay, I would love to hear you share a little bit. Like I've heard your story, especially as it relates to gold and silver. Can you share your story with me or with our audience just about what happened with your family during the Depression as it relates to this?
Yeah. I think for most of us, especially maybe some of your younger viewers, the Depression era, the stock market crash of 1929 that kicked off what we know as the Depression era, which was a prolonged time of economic depression in the United States. I think for many people, even people my age, it feels like ancient history.
Yeah.
I mean, but let me put that in perspective. It was less than 100 years ago
Yeah.
that happened. It was, just over 90 years ago that happened. And the reason that it has special significance to me is that my father lived through it. So my parents had a pretty good spread in age, and my dad was older when I was born. I was the last of six of his six kids. And by the time I came along, my dad was in his 50s, which means that he was born in 1914. And when the stock market crashed, he was a teenager.
Yeah.
So he remembers this, like when he was alive with us, he could speak about this and remember this just in his own lifetime, the same way you or I would remember something when we were 14, 15, or 16.
Yeah.
And my dad came from a family of pastors. So my grandfather was a Nazarene minister, and my dad's maternal grandfather was like a holiness preacher, like a fire and brimstone traveling evangelist type. So I come from
Our
both.
favorites.
Yeah, we come from both ends of that spectrum.
Woo!
I got all my like religious oppression and my crazy, out there stuff. Totally honestly, I was a hot mess growing up. I didn't know what I believed.
That just made me laugh.
Only because you know me. It's true. I grew up in the Nazarene church, which was like as legalistic as it could get. And then we were in some crazy Pentecostal churches when I was a teenager as well. So yeah, all the things. But my dad, his family, they were poor as church mice because that was the expectation.
Yeah.
Then sometimes now that when you're in full-time ministry, that you have to live off a pittance. And if you have too much, then you're selfish. And what's wrong with you? You are doing God's work, therefore you should suffer.
Yeah.
That was the mindset. And I know that's the mindset that you're really helping to change in today's world.
Mhm.
But as a result, my grandparents had nothing. They had nothing saved. They, what little they did have was wiped out in those first weeks and months after the stock market crashed. And even those who at the church could give, which is what you did back then, is you gave to keep the pastor's family alive. The businessmen were wiped out. The, people with farms, many of them were wiped out. It was just a tragic time. But there was a family that lived next door to my dad and his family, and they understood the value of real money. And they used their real money to purchase real property. So they had land, and they had something other than just fiat currency, just currency. And they were able to continue to buy seed and continue to farm their land. And that family benevolently kept my dad's family alive.
Gosh.
They would have had nothing. My dad's family, even as my grandfather continued to preach, there was no money coming in, not from the denomination above him and not from the parishioners in the church. And my dad had two brothers. So my grandmother and grandfather had three teenage boys. And when this unbelievable economic tragedy hit, and it was the people who understood the value of God's money, sound money, and understood the value of investing dollars in real property and real money that were able to continue to seed their land, farm their land, and keep my dad's family afloat for quite a significant period of time. I mean, there's an argument to be made that I'm here today because of that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I just got finished over the summer reading a book about the Dust Bowl and everything that happened. I mean, it was devastating. There are many lineages of people that aren't, all the what if game that we could play, but it's true. Families were wiped out. Okay, so that is so powerful. However, today in our cozy homes and our bank accounts and our ease of everything, why should someone listening to this, why should that matter for today? And also, why should people pay attention to something like gold and silver? When I hear gold and silver, previously, when I would hear about gold and silver, I would think about old bored men that were like talking about gold and silver, smoking their pipes and whatever.
Yeah, collecting their coins and their
coins because they're bored. And Bobby and I had previously just been very uneducated in this space and have started educating ourselves, which if there's one thing I've learned over the past 5 years, it's educating myself about something I don't understand could very well change my life. So why should this matter for people today? Why should people pay attention to gold and silver investments?
Well, I think to answer that question, we have to do another little mini history lesson. And you're right, education is everything.
Yeah.
So, why has the dollar lost so much value? After World War II, in 1944, at the end of World War II, the Allied powers and the economic powers of the world got together in a place called Bretton Woods. And there was a summit or a meeting where they decided that there should be one currency that was tied to real money to give it actual value. Now, what brings the value? A number of things. Scarcity, primarily among them, and the fact that you absolutely cannot counterfeit gold. You
Yeah.
can't fake gold or silver. It
Right.
has certain properties that just are what they are. And the value of it has to do with the scarcity and also the human effort that it takes to actually mine it from the earth.
Yeah.
So that's why these economic geniuses, the greatest of the greatest economic minds and leaders of the world at the time, got together and they chose the US dollar because at that time, the United States was really poised to prosper. And everybody could see that. So they said, okay, let's actually connect the US dollar to gold. We
Hmm.
called that placing our money on the gold standard.
Yeah.
And what it meant is that a dollar was actually worth a dollar. So at that time, gold was $35 an ounce. So $1 worth of gold backed every US dollar.
Wow.
Now, that created discipline in government because of the scarcity of gold. You couldn't just print money like it was your job because you felt like it. There was an actual, you know, connection there. And
Right.
then all the other countries connected their currency to the US dollar. So effectively, the whole world currency was on the gold standard, which
Yeah.
was great. And it worked for quite a while until, and you have to understand, as part of this agreement, other countries could turn in their US dollars in exchange for gold if they ever felt like it.
Yeah.
Why? Because there was the right amount of dollars to gold ratio. This was,
Yeah.
it was a finite system. It was manageable. There was an accounting system in place. Well, then we had a president in Lyndon B. Johnson who decided he was going to create some social programs. And then we got into the Vietnam War. And as such, the US began to spend, 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 and actually printed more money so that it was no longer equating with that gold standard. Other countries, namely France, got nervous and said, we want to turn in all our dollars for gold. And other countries started doing the same. And so Richard Nixon at that point, was the only thing to do. And he actually removed the US dollar from the gold standard. He called all those people who wanted their gold speculators, which I disagree with. I think they were right in their assessment, but that's what happened in 1971. So for 50 years, the US dollar has been, I mean, it's been a little bit of an up and down, but generally has been trending down until today. The buying power of the US dollar is less than 5 cents.
Yeah. So crazy.
So that little history lesson is the basis for which we need to be talking
Yeah.
about gold and silver today. For one thing, the economic crash of 29, to think that could never happen again is foolishness.
Yeah.
It could. And I always like to preface this with, my husband and I, we're not catastrophizing type people. We have a very positive, optimistic view of the future. I'm almost like obsessively optimistic. I just honestly believe things are going
I
to
can
be
attest
fine.
to that.
I am
You are.
obsessively optimistic. However, that does not mean that our wisdom is not in full effect.
Yes.
We are certainly aware that while everything is certainly going to be fine, that doesn't mean it's going to be fine based on the dollar. The
Yeah.
dollar may or may not make it. Those two things are not mutually exclusive.
Yeah. Right. So what brought you and Tim to a place where you and then I'll share our story at the end, but what brought you to a place where you were even open to considering gold? Because you had not really considered it until about a year ago, and then weren't sure what direction to go. Well, I won't tell your story for you. You can tell your story.
Well, I've told it to you so many times, you could tell it. So our story begins and ends with God. My husband and I, we move very much based on the sort of intuition, the gut instinct, that thing that God has put in us. One of us will wake up with like an idea or a feeling. And when both of us kind of are in one accord on that, we know that's the direction of the Lord.
Yeah.
So it really started in 2019 when I woke up one day and I felt like, I wonder what would happen if I took our stock portfolio away from the professionals who have not made us enough money and did it myself. And I immediately dismissed it, but I couldn't let it go.
Yeah.
And so I actually started praying about it. And I felt like that's what God wanted us to do. Fast forward 9 months, we talked to professionals. Everybody told us not to do it, but we did it anyway. And actually liquidated, paid taxes and fees and penalties and all the things that everybody says you don't want to do as you're heading into retirement, but God. And so we had that money sitting in a savings account. And then we were like, now what? And 3 months later, the pandemic hit and California announced the first lockdowns in the country. And the stock market absolutely crashed one day in March, toward the end of March. And my husband and I looked at each other like, God set us up for this. Put that money in the stock market, watched it double in less than a year. We knew nothing. We just chose some stocks that we made sense to us, travel stocks and oil and things like that. Same thing happened with crypto. For the sake of time, I won't go into it, but we bought crypto knowing nothing.
Yeah.
Just enough to get on an exchange and purchase Bitcoin and Ethereum. That then hit the huge bull run of 21, late 20, early 21. And we actually watched our Ethereum almost 10x from the time we bought it. Again, knowing nothing. So when God kind of dropped something in me about gold and silver, I was at the point where I could recognize the pattern. And I said to my husband, we need to have coins like gold and silver or bars. But I thought, how do you spend bars? Like I didn't know enough about it.
Where do you get them?
Where do you get them?
Go buy them at a pawn shop? I would have had no idea.
Those are all the questions that we didn't have the answers to. Yeah. And more than that, even I could probably have Googled and figured out how to buy it, who to trust. Yes. Am I getting a good deal? Is this pure?
Yes.
Is this going to be, is it going to appreciate in value or depreciate in value? Like these are all the things I didn't know.
Right.
So in September of this year, we just continued to pray about that. We honestly didn't know where to go. In September, a friend I had not spoken to in probably 2 years called me out of the blue. And she said, you are on my mind and I need to know, are you and Tim investing in gold and silver? And I was like, ooh, you're spooky. What kind of dark magic is this that you have going on over there? And she had actually sort of picked up the thread of my Facebook when my husband went into the hospital unexpectedly. So she kind of began to follow me unbeknownst to me. And so we were on her mind.
Right.
And I said, we are not, but we're interested. And she began to tell us a story of how she and her husband, who were in the same boat, interested, didn't know where to go, had a friend share this with them. And she told us about a company, unlike any other company, started by 4 people whose mission it is to help everyday Joes, young families, people with no extra savings, people with no understanding of gold and silver, to help all of the everyday people get access to gold and silver. That's the actual genuine heartfelt mission of the company. And I've actually flown to the headquarters to meet these founders because I was like, I need to know if I can trust you.
Yeah.
And I was so in. But the thing that you need to understand is that coin collecting and gold and silver buying has traditionally been done by governments, corporations, and big, big money people.
Yeah.
Not the everyday retailer. And this company is changing that.
Yeah. I love that. Well, I'll share our little mini story because obviously it intersects with Sandy's. So Bobby and I have been really looking to, well, first of all, our backstory is we've lived paycheck to paycheck essentially our entire adult lives. We've chosen ministry as a vocation. It's been amazing, but also has been has literally figuratively cost us financially. And so, which is what brought me into understanding entrepreneurship in the world of network marketing. I love it. I love this vehicle. Developing streams of income. I have come alive here in this world. But we were thinking, okay, we're talking about developing all these streams of income, and just thinking, well, what does wise investment look like for the future? How, like, we have both Bobby and I have very little financial knowledge. Neither of us have any background or degrees or any sort of, we're like, what? We're sticking to a budget and that's about it. And but we started thinking, we're aware of what's happening in the world and we're aware of what's happening in the economy. And because we have been a lot like, your family back previous to the Great Depression, dependent on everything else being okay in order for our income to remain intact, that it has been very overwhelming and quite honestly scary, not in a we don't trust God kind of way, but also in a we need wisdom. We need wisdom when it comes to this. And so I remember when you and I started talking about this and you brought up gold and silver, and I was like, what is this scam? Gold and silver feels like Scrooge McDuck in his cavern with all his gold coins. And, we just didn't really understand. But then we started to do some research. And I think the thing that really, for Bobby and I, that fascinated us, there's kind of two different things. One, gold and silver of anything of like that has actual intrinsic value tied to it has stayed stable and appreciated over time. It is something that is secure and sure and is not going to go away as being a valuable resource. Another reason it's called God's money is because it is a resource that will be part of the earth after we are dead and gone. It's not going, the US dollar may not be a thing, 20 years from now, 200 years from now, who knows? But gold and silver will always remain precious metals. And then we also wanted to think through ways that we could involve our kids in this as well, in the coin collecting, which I feel, and I'm going to ask you about this in just a second, I feel like coin collecting is more misunderstood than gold and silver. Most people can wrap their minds around the gold and silver, but for us, understanding coin collecting, and there's a lot of things you have to take into consideration with the coin collecting as well, but that was something we could involve our children in and also ensure that they have real valuable metals, precious metals that we can literally will to them and that will stand the test of time. So we are also looking to diversify our portfolio, not just in gold and silver, but in other ways. So what we're not saying is only invest in gold and silver and don't consider anything else. But I think for us, as we were taking steps forward, and we don't have tens of thousands of dollars to put into investments, knowing that we could actually transfer our money in small increments into gold and silver assets and into coins that appreciate very quickly in value. I'll let you talk about that in a second because I love it when you talk about this. But we could do that immediately at a good, reasonable cost that you would normally get only if you could buy it in bulk. Well, we are not in a position where we can buy gold and silver in bulk because you need literally thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to be able to do that. However, we're still getting the same value, but in smaller increments that we can do right now. Truly, if Bobby and I can do it now, any family can. Like, trust me. So, okay, can you talk to us a little bit about the coin collecting? Because this has actually turned out to be the thing that I am most geeked out about in this whole world of wealth investment.
Yes. If you had told me months ago that I would be an avid, eager coin collector, I would have punched you in the throat for being a lying idiot. I knew nothing about it. My mindset was, this is what little old grandpas do with their reluctant grandchildren. And they're like in a like mothball smelling, folder.
Yes.
And it's like, this was my whole mindset. Come to find out, coin collecting again being done, like coins are being purchased, coin collections being purchased by the biggest money moguls on the planet. Corporations will hold those as assets. I mean, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I had no idea. So I was very interested in gold and silver. Like you, Jody, I am now, I'm purchasing gold and silver bullion as a wise investment strategy, but that's a defensive strategy. That is like a savings account that will actually
Yeah.
appreciate over time, not depreciate. But gold and
Yes.
silver is not something where you want to get in and get out. You don't want to use your dollars to buy gold and silver and then turn around and cash out, because it is a commodity. There is always an ask price and a bid price. There's always a spread. It is like the stock market, no matter where you get it. Now, I will say the company that we partnered with, they have the best buyback rates pretty much anywhere, and they do not endeavor to make money on their members by buying and selling gold and silver. That is just a perk that you get. The coins, oh my gosh. First of all, I thought coins were just like, oh, this is a 1875 buffalo head from somewhere.
Yes.
I didn't realize the beauty of collectible coins, the design and the backstory of these coins.
Pieces of art.
Oh,
Do you
so
have one there? Is Tim around to grab it?
no, we'll see if we can't drop some pictures in after the fact. I usually have them out, and I think they got put away.
I need to get ours out of our safe. Yeah.
So what we found is a couple of things. Again, there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. The vast majority of people do not buy collector coins or what is called numismatic coins. Numismatic coins are simply coins that you might recognize, like the American silver eagle. Silver and gold eagles are the most recognized coins on the planet. And those are, when they are sent to an authenticator and graded, and they are found to be perfect, which the grading identification for a perfect coin is MS70. That is a numismatic coin. They come in a little case. You don't want to take them out of the case, but the value of coins go up for a variety of reasons. So let me give you a couple examples. The first is some friends of mine who have been doing this a little bit longer than me. They were purchasing every month through disciplined investing. That's another thing I love about this particular company that we've partnered with, is they have this like coin of the month program. It's on autopilot. You don't think about it. You just decide which one you want. It comes to you. And then a year later, you and your family go, look at this little collection we have. Well, my friends, through that particular process, got a beautiful coin. It was designed, it was the Montana state coin, and this particular collection is the state animal collection. Now, the coins are designed by Miles Standish. If you do know anything about coin collecting, his name will definitely pop something in your brain. He is one of the preeminent, if not the most highly sought after coin designer in the world.
He's amazing.
He's ridiculous. The artistry, it's I've never seen anything like it. Yeah. So he designed this Montana coin. Now, he's been doing different animal coins for every single state. The Montana coin had a butterfly on it. There was a story behind that. The coin came out. People paid $139 for it in their sort of coin of the month program. And in less than a year, once the secondary market, meaning people outside of the membership base of this company, once it became available to them, people just lost their minds over this coin. And in less than a year, that $139 coin was worth a minimum of $850, and I've even seen it for sale for $1,100. And the value is going to go up from there.
Yeah, right.
So let me give you a second example, and that is maybe not a beautiful collector coin, but just a silver and gold eagle. Yeah. These are minted every year in the US, Generally speaking, there's about 75 million that are minted in the US, unless something happens. So in 1999, those of you who are old enough, you will know that when Y2K
Oh my
was a thing and the year 2000 was about to be upon us, everybody lost their minds because they thought the computer systems worldwide were going to shut down because they had only been programmed in the 1900 years. Nobody had thought ahead to 2000. So what happened is, in the hysteria, mints in the US actually shut down because they were afraid that things were going to go offline and all these catastrophic things would happen. So in that year, there were only 7 million, not 75 million, that were minted. Well, guess what happened? Those are more valuable. If you have a 1999 Silver Eagle, it can sell for as much as $19,000 right now.
Oh my gosh, that's great. I don't think I
So
knew that.
here's an interesting thing. In our Coin of the Month Club, one of the options, if you don't go with the state animal option, and you can choose multiple, Tim and I are currently getting 3 coins of the month.
Same.
It's just crazy. Totally crazy. But one of them, the sort of most economical option, is $105, and it is a numismatic Silver Eagle, MS70. So it's perfect, graded. The reason it's $105 is that's the exact amount it costs to actually mint the coin, send it to be authenticated and graded and sent back, and then sent to you. So again, the company not trying to make fees on top of that. So in 2020 and 2021, think about 5 or 10 years from now. Can you think of any global event that may have happened in 2020? The pandemic.
Yeah.
And it has gone all the way into 2021.
Yeah.
There have been times where the mints have already gone offline. You hear all the time about supply chain issues. So it is a fairly safe bet that in some years from now, who knows if it's going to be 3 or 5 or 10 or 20, that coin could be worth an astronomical amount.
Right.
And I am literally paying $105 and getting these coins that say 2020 right on them.
Yeah, that is crazy. That is so crazy. Yeah, that was the thing I think that really fascinated Bobby and I the most as we were considering this as an investment strategy. One of many is there is that defensive and offensive ability, and also just the fun. I hope I will explain this well, but I was listening. Sandy was there live, but I was listening virtually to the founders, and Miles Standish was there in person, and they actually released a collection. It's a 3-coin collection of Pearl Harbor, the USS Arizona. If I get any of these details wrong, correct me. And 3 coins are one has been released. The other 2 are going to be released at later dates. Well, one of the coins, and this is for people who are in the coin collecting world, this is a really big deal. One of the coins is the way that it's designed. Part of the coin, it's as if you're looking down into the water, and there's a little raised, I forget what the name of that little raised part is. Tim said it the other day. But somehow they were able to get their hands on actual pieces of the USS Arizona's decking, and they put little pieces of the decking into the actual coin. And it's this beautiful, and it has so much meaning behind it. One of the first coin that was released was only I think 2,400 and
2403.
2403 coins were released. That's how many men and women died the day on Pearl Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
And then I believe that the last coin with the decking in it, there's however many were released, that's how many bodies are still in the ocean that have not been recovered in the boat. So just the significance of what these coins represent, what they mean in limited amounts. And another thing that really interested me is that wealthy people, which, a different level than we have been at any point in our lives. Coin collecting is actually a really big thing, and it
Mhm.
is something that's not necessarily educated on to the masses, but is something, I am passionate about sticking up for the little guy. And so I really want to start bringing education about not only this type of investment strategy, but these things that for a long time, very wealthy people have known about and have been able to get their hands on. And now, people like us who have never really known much about this world now have access to um, very easily. So that fascinated me. I have these coins. Bobby's geeking out about them. I'm geeking out about them. Our kids are fascinated by this. And this is something we will pass on to our children, our grandchildren, Lord willing. I'm thrilled that this has become a strategy that we've taken on in our lives.
Yeah, you hit on so many great things. The last thing you said, husbands and wives, families are doing this together. It's truly like an activity. And in some cases, some people are really looking at it like a business because in
Yeah.
addition to the collecting of the coins and the, securing your financial assets in gold and silver, if you decide you want to share this with somebody, which I'm telling you, you won't be able to help yourself. We had no intention. We were just doing this for ourselves, didn't care about, we didn't think anybody else would want to know.
Yeah.
And boy, were we wrong.
Woo!
Everybody wants to know about this. And the company, this is kind of the world we live in. If I share something with you and then you decide you want to become a member, the company recognizes you should, there should be a referral or an affiliate payout associated with that. Now,
Yeah.
that's not the biggest part of what this is at all. But if you're an entrepreneur and
Yeah.
you look at everything as how can I leverage this to generate another stream of income, which is just how my brain works and how Jody's brain works, that exists in this company.
Right.
But to be able to do things as families, the kids, oh my gosh, the kids get into the coins. The
Yeah.
husbands and wives are like wrestling the FedEx thing out of each other's hands because it's like when those coins come every month, I can't tell you the number of times like Tim and I will hear ding, we'll look at our phones. It's like you have a package. We look at each other like we're gonna race each other out there. Yeah. But what the point you made about the Arizona as well really illustrates the fact that collectibles, the X factor of collectibles, there are several things that make them valuable. Again, they're precious metals. They're beautifully designed. They're scarce. And Jody talked about the mintage or the number of coins of each that are minted.
Yeah.
So scarcity, but story on
Oh,
collectibles. So
yeah.
think about it. If you have a Mickey Mantle rookie baseball card
Yeah.
in perfect condition, that thing probably cost 5 cents to make. I think it cost 5 cents to buy at the time that kids got it. And those now sell for crazy amounts,
Yeah.
hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars, famously.
It's the
Is it
meaning behind them.
It's the story, the meaning, it's the
Yeah.
sentimental value, it's how much a collector wants it, and that's the X factor. But the scarcity, so, that first coin that you mentioned of the USS Arizona, which was famously sunk on Pearl Harbor Day, the first coin was a 2-ounce silver coin, beautiful. Actually, Tim and I got that. The other 2 have not been released yet, but we were fortunate enough to be with the founders, and they had samples. And so we were actually able to see them.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh. The 2-ounce coin, the mintage on that is 1171. And I don't recall the exact significance of that number, but all 3 of the mintage numbers, as Jody pointed out, were totally tied to the story of Pearl Harbor.
Right.
But the last one that you were talking about with the decking, and picture the decking piece on there as being like, it's almost like a pale blue, rusted over time, been in the water. I mean, it's legitimately part of the decking that
Wow.
has been scavenged from, because if you go to Pearl Harbor, they've made a memorial, like a bridge that you can stand on. And from there, you look down at the USS Arizona, which is sunk under the water, still there in the condition it went down.
Right.
So this 5-ounce coin, my husband looked at that and he was like, I'm telling you right now, I don't care what that costs. We're getting that. Because can you imagine having the set of 3 of these? And the value always goes up when you hold an entire collection.
Yes.
So there is no doubt in my mind that that's going to double, triple, quadruple or more in value.
I just don't know how I would ever be able to get rid of that, ever.
I can't.
Ever. That would be so hard. Wow. Oh my gosh, we've been talking for 40 minutes. This has been so good. So if you're watching this, or if you are someone who is even intrigued or curious about this at all, let me know. I would love to connect you with more education behind this company, what they're providing for the normal people like us. This is something Bobby and I have dove into, and we are absolutely loving. It is something that I am doing in addition that complements what I'm already building with my daytime job business, I guess you could say. And it's just something that has really opened our eyes to different strategies for wealth, not just making and increasing wealth, but being able to protect it with something that's actually real. So Sandy, thank you so much. Well, I'm going to have you back on a lot of times and we can continue to talk about this. I'm going to put in the comments section, I'm streaming to 3 platforms right now, a video by Robert Kiyosaki, who talks about the importance of silver. It's a 2-minute video. It's super fascinating. And then another video that explains just gold and silver, why it's something the everyday person should be considering. If you are interested in learning more about this company, where you can get fractional amounts of it at wholesale pricing, it is the theme is accessibility, accessible to the everyday person. We would love to share that with you. So anyway, thank you, Sandy. Love you to the moon and back. And thanks for joining me today.
My pleasure. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.